And we are live. Hi there, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Florida Live. I'm here with Hector Chinea. It looks like it's just the boys for now on the show.
Just the boys.
And we are going to be talking about things you may or may not know. If you're planning to move to Florida, we're going to help you get through some of the surprises that you might not expect. Probably talk about some things that you would definitely expect with a possible move here to Florida. And even though I love living here in paradise, it's not always like a permanent vacation. There are some things you certainly need to keep in mind. If this is your first time tuning in, my name is Eric Larkin. I'm a real estate agent here in Cocoa Beach, Florida on the Space Coast. And besides doing regular videos like this one, I also help people buy and sell property. And if you are planning to move to Florida, specifically here in the Cocoa Beach area, I'm more than happy to help you out. If your plans are taking a little further south, like to the Miami area, I know Hector can help you. And Aimee, thanks for joining us. She's
Hi.
in the Palm Beach area.
Hi, Aimee.
Hi.
So how's everybody tonight?
Great. How are you guys?
Another day in paradise. Things are good. Thank you.
Yay.
So this is for me, this is a little unusual because I'm a space geek. I keep an eye on what's happening with the launches, et cetera, that are happening here. And if you're here in Brevard County or this area, in like 2 minutes, SpaceX is supposed to have a launch tonight. So step outside, look towards the Cape, and hopefully SpaceX will give you an awesome show with their Falcon 9 launch. It's always cool. This is the first time I've ever seen it. We have 2 launches that happened today. I'll put my hands here in front of the camera. 2 launches that happened today. So ULA launched an Atlas rocket this morning at like 6:30 a.m. That was magnificent. Posted a video of that on my Instagram post, I believe it was. And I got some photos I still need to go through. But to see 1 rocket launches in a day is awesome. To be able to see 2 of them happening in the area, I think this is the first time it's happened. Kind of cool.
Well, I'm super bummed that I missed you, Eric, last week. I know you're with your family, but we were kind of hoping, we thought, gosh, we should have timed this better, obviously, with you, and then to be able to see the rocket launches. And I guess to your point, my husband had said, yeah, well, there's one going off literally like the day after we leave or something like that. So we were like, we're going to have to.
That happens. What's up, Michele? You can't always plan around a rocket schedule because they do have their own schedules. It's not, they do get postponed from time to time. Yes. But I think it's definitely a perk about living here in Central Florida where you can step outside and watch one of them launch in a day, let alone having 2 happen in a day. That's kind of cool.
Uh-huh.
So I guess you had a good time in Cocoa Beach?
Eric, let me just tell all of you about where Eric lives. It was amazing. It is so much fun in Cocoa Beach, and not to take away from where I am here, but they're just so completely different. They're so different. It was so nice to go up there. The coffee, if y'all know me, you know that I am a coffee holic. I love my coffee, and they have the coolest coffee shops there.
So did you go by Juice and Java downtown Cocoa Beach?
No, we went to the one across the street.
Surfinista.
We went there twice because we loved it so much. We got the cold brew and let's see, what else did we get? The avocado toast. And my kids were super excited. They got their, it was called the Grom, and it was Rice Krispies. So very gourmet, but yeah, so they had that. The cold brew is amazing.
Is that like a nitro coffee it's really strong, really powerful?
It's so good. Oh yeah, man, it was delicious to the point where we had one that morning. Actually, no, we were there 3 times because we had it that morning, and on the way out, I made my husband stop and get 2 more because it was so good. So wow, that was amazing. And I'm giving like major shout outs to Cocoa Beach and Eric's place because y'all need to go and visit it. And what a fabulous place. And you have the best agent there to show you around and to purchase properties there. The other place that was really good was that ice cream place.
Fat Donkey?
Yes. Yes.
They've got a hashtag do it for the donk, and really Fat Donkey has some of the best ice cream I've ever had. But if I know they've got the one in Cocoa Beach that you went to, there's a little one in Indian Harbor Beach here as well. But if you're on the West Coast in Sarasota, there's also a Fat Donkey in Sarasota too. So you've got 3 places you can go and maybe try and enjoy it.
We ate there. We also ate at there's Maine in it. My daughter got a Maine lobster.
Mainly lobster. It's called Jazzy's Mainly Lobster. Besides having a great selection of seafood there, I just like walking around the building because I'm a fan of murals, and the whole building all around has some of the best murals in Cocoa Beach. The one that's on the south side of it is actually no, the west side of it is like a father and son that are surfing, and they're pushing the board like duck diving underneath. And it's really cool mural.
So cool. Yeah. So if y'all know, I am I say y'all because it's just easier to say that, but I am originally from Maine, born and raised, literally my whole life. My family is still up there. And so for me to order a Maine lobster from someplace other than Maine, that takes a lot for me to do that, by the way. I actually did not order the lobster, but my daughter did. And I have to tell you, it was delicious. And this is coming from a maniac Maine girl that is saying that place, Jazzy mainly, was amazing. So if you all get a chance to go to Cocoa Beach, I would highly recommend it, and hit Eric up for all of the real estate purposes, because you won't be disappointed. I mean, I will say that those properties there are jump in on it now. Jump in on it now.
Well, I got a couple things to throw in on there. So this is some of the things you might not know about Florida. Like if you're moving here to the Cocoa Beach area, the restaurants that she described Surfinista, the Fat Donkey, and drew a blank on the other one. But
Coffee place.
The coffee place, they're all mom and pop shops. So they're unique to the Cocoa Beach area. And if you go up and down A1A, all the restaurants here are just like that along the beaches. They're all unique mom and pop style restaurants, except for like the fast food places that are going to be everywhere.
So my best friend that I met at University of Florida grew up in Cocoa Beach.
Awesome. And you know the mayor too.
I know the mayor. I know Ben. He's a great guy.
He is.
And I've been to Cocoa Beach a couple of times, and I have to tell you, it is just old Florida charm. It's kind of how Boca was back in the day. Very
quaint.
Very quaint. Yeah, thank you. I'm still sweating. So if you're moving to Florida and you go to a nonprofit event that's outside and you have a blowout, you just screwed yourself.
Yeah.
I can't even I'm so hot right now. Boca Raton Chamber of Commerce does Boca Festival Day, so I went to support the Hanley Foundation. But Cocoa Beach is just fantastic.
And they're doing what they can to try and keep that small town feel, which we certainly appreciate. Thank you for sharing that, Hector. We got the launch coming in about 50 seconds, so we got that sharing the screen. So Cocoa Beach has put a moratorium on the height of the buildings here. So we do have a couple of condos that were built in the 80s that are like 14, 15 stories high. But right now there's a 45-foot moratorium, so you really can't build any large buildings anymore here. And it keeps the nice low profile on the beaches. There is a little unrest with some of the locals here because there is an approval for variances to go up to 70 feet if you are on the coastline, like right there on the ocean. And Westgate a couple years ago bought the Cocoa Beach Pier, and they've got this big parking lot to the southwest of the pier that they've proposed to put a new hotel and parking garage that's going to be 72 feet in height. So there's a little battle going on between the citizens wanting to keep the 45-foot height, even though there's allowance for the variance if requested. There goes SpaceX and the Falcon 9. That's kind of cool.
So freaking cool. I want to run outside and see if I can see it because it's pretty clear.
Yeah, the launch this morning, Eric and guys, you can see it in Miami. All over Miami, you could see it this morning.
That's beautiful. And it was a gorgeous launch too.
It was.
Everybody leaves except for us.
Ran outside, and Michele went outside. So, It'll be interesting if they get that variance because it's Eric. Unfortunately, we all know what makes the world go around: money. And there's usually a lot of money behind these decisions and the things that get approved. And so, if they get in the right pockets, they're probably going to get the variance approved by the county or the city.
Yeah, it's the city that I think that controls this one in particular. And even though I don't want to see a lot of large buildings that are out there, a 70-foot building I don't think is exceptionally large. Okay. And a new building looks better than an empty lot or an older building. So even though you might not like the aesthetics or the design of what they're doing for the building, it'll certainly be an improvement for the area. And buildings like that also bring in tax revenue. So that parking lot only brings in so much property tax revenue. And if they put a hotel there with the garage, that'll bring in that much revenue for it too.
A lot of tourist money, a lot of tourist taxes.
Most definitely.
With SpaceX, because obviously NASA has just been amazing. And a little fun fact that never resonated with me until Melissa, my bestie, who's a fantastic teacher, said to me, well, you understand the area code, so go ahead and tell everybody what the special piece is about the area code for your area.
All right, so the area code for Brevard County, it was like 20 years ago, maybe further back when they had changed it. So area code is 321, as in liftoff.
Ah.
I never knew that.
So it's a space-themed area code just for the Space Coast in Brevard County. Prior to that, we were 407, which is what the Orlando area is, back in the day. But with Brevard County growing, they knew they needed something. And that was the pitch that a PR company had done, and it makes total sense. I'm glad it worked out. I just wish I owned the number 321 liftoff.
Yeah.
Because that would be a great number to advertise on.
Yeah, so I'm probably the oldest one here. And so one of the things that's always so funny, I was on the downtown advisory board for the city of Boca for a long time, but one of the architects here is fantastic. He'd be like, I've lived in Boca since it was area code 305. And I'm like, yeah, so have I at this point. Like it used to be area code 305, which was the Miami area code, right, Hector?
Right. That's been our area code, and we have two now.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll remove that. Go back to the four of us. Thank you for bringing that up, Hector. That's always awesome to watch. And inside my office building here, I didn't hear the rumble. So maybe the winds or clouds were taking it into a different direction. Really quick, for those who are watching online now, if you could drop in the comments where it is that you're tuning in from. And if you've got any questions about maybe an upcoming move to the Florida area that we might be able to help you with, because tonight's episode is all about talking about things that you might not expect with your move to Florida. And one of those could be rocket launches unexpectedly. You just got to keep your eyes on the Cape.
The other unexpected thing, and if you know, I have a very specific scream. A very specific scream when I see it. If you're moving to Florida, be prepared for palmetto bugs, cockroaches that fly. And honestly, the first time you'll just be in shock and you'll be like, oh my God, is this really happening? And then you'll be like, is there hairspray? Is there bleach? Is there something I can spray at this thing coming at me? And they do. They just like come right at you. So
they do.
Be prepared.
Eric, when I was in Cocoa Beach,
I
dropped in at CrossFit Cocoa Beach.
Got it.
And I was around the back, yes. And it was sort of it was inside, outside. So it was around the back. And I hear this zoom fly by me. And I was like, oh my gosh, what is going on? It was so loud. It was like this flying pterodactyl. And I like looked around and I like freaked out. I was like, oh my gosh, there is a flying pterodactyl in here. I'm looking around and everybody's looking at me like, what is wrong with you? I said, no, I swear to God, it was like the loudest noise of a bug. The guy's there, he looks at me and he goes, oh, that's a cicada. Are you talking about the thing that's on your neck right now? Oh my gosh, the thing was huge.
Yep.
You know what a cicada is?
I sure do. And to me, a cicada is like the sounds of summer because they're in all the trees. And you could hear them singing.
No.
And it's a sound of summer here in the South. I know, like Washington D.C., they have cicadas during the summertime too, and you just hear them chirping in the trees.
They're so
Savannah
loud.
has them.
But they
Yeah.
do fly kind of oddly too. They have like a very uncontrolled flight, not quite as unpredictable as like the palmetto bugs that Michele was talking about, but they certainly do have a flight. They zzz type.
I have a info about them. So they live in the ground for 13 years.
Mm-hmm.
Then they come out, they mate, and then they go back in for 13 more years.
That's sad.
And last year up in DC was supposed to be the biggest cicada flock or whatever you'd like, the swarm coming out. Last year was like record numbers of cicadas in the DC area and other states in the South.
Wow.
Fortunately not here in Florida, but it's definitely one of those sounds of summers that I just like hearing in the daytime when they're all
They
singing
are
in the
kind of
trees.
comforting.
Yeah.
It's a comforting sound.
So
But then
sounds like we definitely got some bugs here.
Right
we
in
got
front of you.
lizards. Lizards the side, like there's a lizard living out on my front porch, and I just was like, "Oh, dude, you're like large." Like he was not.
Is it one
like
of the
a
curly
little
tails?
Yeah, probably. He was big, and he's kind of like found a little spot, and I was like, okay. And occasionally I have lizards in my house, and it's Florida. You open the slider and they come in, but
Yep.
here's the good thing: they eat bugs.
Yes, they do.
Eat bugs. They're not a bad thing,
No, hold on a second. Share screen.
There's a lot of wildlife in Florida. If you're thinking of moving to Florida, be prepared.
So these are just critters that I've taken to my backyard, various curly tails that we have. And they're pretty good size, but
Yeah,
they're
they're
fun
big.
to watch. They're quick. They'll eat just about anything. So they'll eat bugs. They'll eat
they eat
pieces
bugs.
of food. They'll eat other lizards.
That's the problem. That's the
yeah.
problem, Eric, that they're they're invasive. And
they are. Yeah, they're not native here.
No.
But you can see they're kind of cool looking.
They're kind of friendly. They don't do anything,
Yeah, but there's with them not being a native, they're invasive.
Well, we could talk about iguanas then. Those things.
Well, I was just going to show you something that I ran into yesterday at one of my at one of the showings.
Mm-hmm.
Hang on one second. Let me.
All right, as you're working on bringing that up, I want to thank Charles Brown for tuning in from Maryland. He's tuned in on a couple other episodes. Thank you for tuning in, Charles.
Hi, Charles.
I know you got property in Palm Bay, Charles. What are some things that when you made the move from Maryland down here, they're like, holy cow, I guess this is a Florida thing. I'd like to hear from you.
Maybe not.
Well, maybe he'll get to it. We'll see
Yeah,
if
he
he
may
comes
be
in or
typing.
not. So what do you got for us? Aimee, you were looking for something. Did you find it?
Yeah, so I found it. Let's see if I can share my screen here.
Yeah, hit the share
So
button and then I'll work on bringing it up.
I'm at a showing yesterday. And share screen here. Okay. Can you guys see this? Okay.
I do now.
Yep.
I have no idea if there's so
that's a lizard.
in Florida when there's an iguana crawling up the side of the house.
Oh.
All right. Speaking of iguanas, do they really fall from trees when it gets cold?
Yeah, for sure. Oh, Jesus.
Absolutely. I was doing a home inspection on a property in Miami Springs, and I was doing a home inspection on a property in Miami Springs. There were over 100 frozen lizards because it was one of those days where it was like 12 noon and it was 38 degrees here.
Like January, February?
It was January or February. Yep, Michele, it sure was. And there were iguanas all over, at least 100 frozen iguanas. And all of a sudden, as they start to thaw out, you see their legs starting to move a little bit. I actually stayed and watched this. By around 2:30, 3 o'clock, when they get warm enough to move, they start moving.
That's crazy.
It was really, really weird. I've never seen anything like it before.
So that's a good point to bring up. We do get some cold weather in Florida, and it gets a little colder up by you, Eric.
Yes, it does.
Than it does down here, but we live for like December through March, that cooler breeze, no humidity. Trust me when I tell you, I have like 9 gallons of hairspray on today because if I didn't, my hair would be out to here because of the humidity. Like seriously, like look at this. Like you cannot move my hair.
Hilarious.
So if you're moving to Florida and you have any sort of curly, frizzy hair issue, trust me, you've got to like be prepared.
That weather in Cocoa Beach was definitely it was enjoyable. And there's always waves to go surfing, by the way.
Yeah, we actually did have waves here over the last week or so. We've had some waves. But what's funny about the colder temperature here, folks from up north will see that it's, if we get down to the 40s and we're all bundled up, actually they'll see us in the 50s and we're all bundled up. But if they come down here with our 40-degree weather, they don't realize that 40 degrees and that ocean breeze plus our higher humidity feels like it's 20 degrees as if they were back home like in Long Island. Because I've seen some folks who were from Long Island down here, using their second home, and they dress shorts and flip-flops without any heavier clothes. And they're like, it's colder here than it was when they got on the plane up at LaGuardia.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and by the way, being from Maine, and I throw my Ugg boots on, I get razzed in my house. You were a Maine girl. How are you wearing boots right now? I'm like, it is cold out, you guys. Like, you can't deny the fact.
Let me ask you something. We have cement block homes here for the most part. And cement block homes really hold that cold in.
Yes, they do. Especially if you have like terrazzo floors too, or a tile flooring. Between the two of them, it definitely holds that cold weather in.
Sure.
Yep. We this house, the home I live in right now, it did have terrazzo floors, and even now we put marble on top of it. It's still cold, the marble, because the seams on the marble are so thin that it's almost like having the terrazzo floors. And when it gets cold here, it gets cold.
That's
right. It's really nice in the summertime though, because it takes a while for it to heat up too. It still holds in the coolness. Feels good on the bare feet. Right. Charles has a question for us. I've got a question for each of you. What were you guys and gal individual reasons for picking Atlantic side over the Gulf side?
Great question.
So who wants to go first?
I'll go first. It's the closest to Cuba. I mean, what?
Muy bien.
Well, don't we call Miami Little Cuba? We call Miami Little Cuba.
Northern Havana. We're Northern Havana.
Oh, there you go.
What is it? 90 miles? 90 miles?
It's 90 miles to Cuba, but no, I mean, I was actually, believe it or not, my parents are Cuba, are from Cuba, and I was, as I say, was gonna be born in Cuba, and then a month before, my parents luckily were able to get out of the Castro regime and the communism, so I was actually born in Madrid, Spain. So I actually can go get my Spanish citizenship if I live there 90 plus days, which I'm planning on doing that at some point, but. When your whole family, like Aimee just said it, this is Northern Havana, like 80% Cubans, there's so many Latins here that, my parents tried to move to Tampa in the mid 70s, no bueno. So they came back home, we lived in Little Havana until we moved up north a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it is like Aimee said,
it's family for you. Now, Aimee, what brought you from Maine to Florida, and why did you pick, Southeast Florida?
Kind of easy, I guess. I went to college here.
Oh, boom.
That'll do it.
College. I went to Palm Beach Atlantic, the private school there that was right on the coast. And I'll be honest with you, I had looked at that school, and I also looked at FSU. And when we came down to visit, FSU was too northerny. It felt too much like up north, and we really wanted to have like Florida weather. It was my best friend and I that came down, and we here we are. Like
boom.
There we are. Yeah. I mean, I had no intentions of staying, but my husband's born and raised here.
Okay.
So that's how I was planning on moving out, and then I met him, and then his whole family is born. His mom is also born and raised here.
Wow.
He is, and my kids are. So we've got 3 generations.
Well, that's kind of cool. Now, is he prone to travel, or has he left the state of Florida much? Because usually
Oh yeah.
generations that I've seen that have been in Florida like that, they don't really travel far outside their city or county, let alone across the state.
No, he travels all the time, travels overseas. Actually, he's in Texas right now.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, he travels tons. His family travels a lot. They used to have a winter home in Utah, and they would go there skiing. So they definitely would get that nice winter weather to go out with the family. And I remember when I had, one of my first Christmases here with him, and I just thought it was so bizarre to see people surfing on Christmas Day.
Wow.
Like I just couldn't even, now I'm used to it, but I literally could not get used to the idea that people were surfing. And he's
We're
like,
going to the beach.
this is what we do. This is what we do. This is what we did when I was growing up. And so it's just so interesting to me to think, well, I would put my skis on and go winter skiing while you were surfing. And it's crazy. So that's how I got on this coast. That's how I ended up on this coast.
Awesome. That's kind of cool. And since you mentioned surfing on Christmas, there's a tradition here in Cocoa Beach called Surfing Santas. This happens every Christmas Eve in Cocoa Beach, where it's a fundraiser for, something grind. It's for cancer treatments and helping the families of children who have gotten cancer is the fundraiser for it.
Did Kelly Slater start that?
No, I don't think Kelly Slater started it. He might have been a part of it at some point in time, but it's kind of cool to see this. This is in front of Coconut. So how many people come in and pack in for dressed up in their surfing outfits, and they go out there and they surf to raise some money. So
that is awesome.
That's a very cool Cocoa Beach tradition.
Very cool.
And Michele, I know you're not from Florida. I believe you're from a little further north.
I am. I'm actually Canadian,
Hey.
A boot.
I know, a boot, Zed, all the fun stuff. I like my Molson's beer. So I didn't have a choice. I was kicking and screaming down here in between 10th and 11th grade. My dad started the first water slide in Pompano Beach called Water Boggin. So any of you who are watching this from South Florida, you'll remember Water Boggin was the first water slide. I don't know how they got away with it. It was cement. You just hurtled down it. My husband used to skip school from Boca High and go on. He got in trouble one time because he got busted. His dad goes, well, were you at school today? He goes, yeah. He goes, well, why do you have a suntan burn like you were at walls and he had like suntan burn? But yeah, so I moved down from London, Ontario, which is not too far from Toronto, but I was born in Vancouver and I lived in Calgary. And so we vacationed just prior to moving to Boca in Fort Lauderdale. And I don't know how my dad decided on Boca. I just did a post on Facebook, which I think is a great way to learn history of your friends if you've been in a town for a long time. And I said, how did you end up moving to Boca Raton? Like, how did your parents or grandparents end up moving here? And oh my God, the stories are fantastic. And it keeps coming. I'm going to pin it. But a big draw for people that moved here to Boca was IBM.
Got it.
Because IBM was here. And that seems to be a common thread. A lot of people transferred to IBM here and also to Florida Atlantic University when it was much smaller. So, Betty, no.
This broadcast is complete now. Thank you, Betty.
I'm going to throw something, throw a little like lipstick at him just to like distract him. But the stories that I'm hearing are very interesting. That people moved to Fort Lauderdale, but their parents didn't like Fort Lauderdale, so they drove a little further north. And back in the day, Addison Meisner, there was a huge campaign about Boca Raton and the Boca Resort, which is now called the Boca Raton, and Flagler and the Flagler Museum and the Flagler Railroad. We have quite a bit of history on this side of the coast. So, I didn't have a choice, but gosh, I got to tell you, I'm so grateful that we did move here because three or four girls came knocking on my door. I just moved here and they were all selling M&Ms for band. And I didn't know what band was because we didn't have that in Canada. And one of them is the godmother of my children, Patty. And the thing about Boca back in the day, it was so small. We are all a very tight group of kids that all of us went to Boca High. It was the only community high school at the time, and graduated in 1980. We just have great memories, and all of us are now turning 60. And so there's been a lot of nice celebrations, big ones, small ones. And there's something to be said about being in a room with people that you've known for almost 50 years. You don't have to explain yourself. You have stories. You're going to funerals, you're going to weddings. Now we're going to our kids' weddings. It's just fantastic. I'm grateful. I'm very grateful that my dad had that vision, even though I know it was a business scenario. That's why we moved to the Atlantic side. Although when I started dating Andy, his mom and his family from Ohio really went over to the West Coast, Fort Myers in particular. And my girls ended up going to FGCU in Estero in between Naples and Fort Myers. So
interesting. Well, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And
the best thing about that, Michele, is that, like, for instance, I have a friend that I'm going to see next week, Paul. I haven't seen Paul. I mean, we got together for lunch about 2 months ago, but before that, I hadn't seen him since 1992.
Wow.
And then my Navy buddies, we're getting together September the 9th. I'm flying up to Raleigh, and then I'm taking one of their private planes. They have like a little prop plane out to the Outer Banks. And I haven't seen them since 1993. So it's been a minute.
And it's like you're going to pick up right where you left off. I think there's something about that especially, I think too, when you live in a coastal area, there's just something that's just so unique and special about it, no matter where it is. I think we're just so fortunate to live in these areas, and there's so many different communities and towns from the Florida Keys and Miami all the way up to where Eric is, and even one of my favorite places is St. Augustine, and that is beautiful.
Yeah, I agree. St. Augustine is beautiful. I mean, we were there a few years back, and we took the little trolley, and
so much fun.
So unique,
It is. And you want to talk about a foodie place too. There's some great local restaurants throughout St. Augustine. I mean, you can just throw a rock and go to that restaurant, and it's going to be great food.
And then it's interesting to see the prices of real estate. So down here, our real estate is fairly expensive as the state itself goes. And then, of course, different cities have pocket areas where you have very, very wealthy communities and you have higher end properties. But I would say there's an affordability factor throughout the state where we have a very large state, and then we don't really talk about the Panhandle. It's almost like its own state. It's just so far up there, and we have a good friend up there, Rick Gonzalez.
Yeah.
So we got to get up there to the Panhandle because I just see it's fantastic. But if you're thinking of moving here, there's a lot of different opportunities for price points, and the weather is great really wherever you go. The one thing I will leave you all with is that the four of us know all the great real estate agents around the state. So even if you're not moving into our area, we have great realtor relationships with people who can guide you all over the state.
100%. And not just here in the state, but anywhere in the country. Between the four of us, we probably have connections in all 50 of the states, and the Providence is up in Canada too. I think we'll easily be able to get you introduced to something like that.
Yep.
So let's see, what do we got?
We covered
Eric. What I was actually going to talk about fruit trees, because I just planted a lemon tree in my yard about 2 feet high, and I'm watering it every day because our subtropical climate really helps plant a tree. You can plant a tree anywhere here, and it's going to grow. As long as you water it, especially now that we're like in a little bit of a rainy season where it rains every day between 2 and 3, and then the humidity goes through the roof. But yeah, my tree is growing nice. I was like really surprised to see it actually already start blooming a little bit. So, I mean, we live in one of the best places. I mean, why go get it at a store when you can have your own trees and plants in your backyard?
Most definitely. And it's just not lemon or citrus trees. I know 2 months ago, 3 months ago was when mangoes were in peak, and you could, driving through Merritt Island or even some of the beach communities, you can see these big mango trees, and they're just lit. The trees are so heavy with fruit that it's almost leaning down. You could reach up and you could pick a nice big mango and enjoy that here in a little bit. And it's just not mangoes or the citrus. You've got the carambolas, the star fruits. You got Aimee showed us this avocado like the size of my head last week.
Huge.
Plus the tomatoes and peppers, and the growing season here in Florida for gardens are really good too, because it's practically year round.
We still have farms in West Boca.
Oh, yeah?
Pick used to be here. Oh yeah, that was one of the things that came up when I posted that question, and somebody said, "Oh, my grandfather had 1,000 acres out in West Boca. It was all farmland," and there's still farmland out that way. And so during the pandemic, one of the things the community did to help sustain the farms was to just go out, and you would spend like $10, $20, $30 and just open your back, your trunk, and they would just place it in there because no contact. And that way you could support the farmers that were still, trying to do their business.
Fantastic.
That's awesome.
And really quick, I want to give Charles a shout out. That was a cool question he brought up, asking why we chose the East Coast versus the Gulf Coast or anywhere else in Florida. I thought that was pretty good conversation. Sean Williams, appreciate you tuning in. Sean is with Marine Bank and Trust. There's a branch here in Melbourne, but they also have branches in other parts of the state. Like he lives, I believe, in Lauderdale by the Sea. Correct me if I'm wrong, Sean, but I know you live at the south end of the state. I see him from time to time, and I use his bank for loans as well. They offer a great service.
Awesome.
So it's funny that you mentioned you had mentioned some livestock, Michele. Farming, okay. Livestock is what popped in my head about that. Last month and the month before, Susan and I, we went to Sarasota for a weekend. We went to Naples for another weekend, and we took the back roads and just kind of wandered throughout the state just to see what was out there. And it blew me away how much of the middle of the state, especially like south of Orlando near Okeechobee, as we were heading across, was farmland. It's like there was cattle everywhere, and it was something that I was kind of surprised to see. I didn't really necessarily expect that. I expected more citrus groves and other things like that, not necessarily all the cattle that we saw driving across the state.
Yeah. Hey, Eric, we have a place down here off of 248 near US 1 called Nosberry Farm.
Uh-huh.
Everybody says, oh, let's go to the Amish. They're not actually Amish. There's some denomination that has to do with Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
It's an all cash business, so you got to bring your cash. But they have the fruits like what Michele's talking about. They have all kinds of fruits out there, acres and acres. You can go pick it yourself, or you can buy it in the store already picked. They have the best all natural shakes, and between October and like April, they have these cinnamon rolls that they make them fresh every day.
Awesome.
And it's like $6 for a dozen or something. They're amazing. I recommend going to Nosberry Farm, especially when they open, which is around October. It's amazing. It really is.
Fresh ingredients, real butter to make the baked goods.
Yep. Everything's real. They churn their own butter. It's just, when I go, I buy about 6 dozen, and then I go visit my favorites and drop it all off. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Now, since I think we all have some level of foodieism, we like to eat. Something that I think is consistent throughout all of Florida and actually part of the Southeast is some of the great food that we can get from Publix supermarkets, which is here in Florida. I don't know about y'all, but I love my Publix.
Oh yeah.
Love a good pub sub.
I was just going to say, Publix subs. How can you go wrong with that?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. My favorite is the rotisserie chicken. So it's like I go in, I'll get a rotisserie chicken, and that's a good meal or two from that. And most recently, our delis have, I'm also a fan of boar's head meat, and the deli subs, the Publix subs, or Publix delis all have boar's head meat. They've got these fresh cut cases now where it's pre-selected, like a half pound of ham, turkey, roast beef, and various cheeses. And that's the best thing. I'm so happy that Publix done that, because now I can grab and go without having to wait in the line to get it fresh cut.
How about the Publix meal wheel, which is, I think, the best deal going? It's this wheel. It's a sandwich. It's like $10, and you just chop it. It's fantastic. Yep. But let's hold up. Back in the day, Publix had bakeries that were separate from the stores, right? And so going into a Publix bakery that was like next door, it was awesome. And they would always give out the free cookies, right? But let's talk about Publix birthday cakes just for a moment.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
The birthday cakes, man, they're the best.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Can't
What is it that I like at Publix? Oh, actually, I was going to ask you guys a question. Do you have a Publix that you can drive underneath?
No.
No.
I saw one when we were in Sarasota. It was on one of the beach communities. So parking was underneath it. And it was because it was so close to the coastline, the bottom floor was a washout. So if a storm came through, a storm surge, they have parking underneath the buildings. And then there's an escalator to go up. And it's a full-size Publix. It was like a 37 or 43,000 square foot store. And it was laid out exactly like what you would expect. It had the terrazzo floors, but it was on second
Upstairs.
story.
It's great. It's nice because even if it's raining outside, you don't get wet. So I have another buddy of mine that went to high school with me. He works at their headquarters, and they're actually going to be putting up more and more of them because they found that it brings in more people, especially when it's raining, because people can actually park underneath and stay dry. So that was their study.
And here's a fun fact that y'all may or may not know. From high school until 2002, when I got my real estate license, I worked for Publix. So I started bagging groceries, worked my way over into the produce department. I worked my way up into management, helped them open up some stores in Atlanta and South Carolina. But of course, we came back home to Florida. So I'm a fan of Publix, first of all, just because of their food and everything else. But I'm kind of biased because, I worked there for 18 years.
Right.
Wow.
Oh. Hey,
And
Eric, did you tell us?
I
What's
called
that?
you. When I found that out, I called you and I said, so you worked at Publix, and I called on Publix's for 10 years with Warner Lambert.
That's
Yeah.
so funny.
It's just hysterical. Like, and I opened up several Publixes doing the resetting of the stores at 5 a.m. in the
Oof.
morning.
I've done plenty of those.
Listerine.
Oh yeah, yep. Eric, did you tell us why you ended up in Florida?
Oh, no, I guess I didn't go into that. So I'm from the Bronx. That's where I was born, in the Bronx.
Hey,
Never really lived there. Hey, forget about it.
Hey, forget about it.
Are you like Eric from the block?
No. But my parents both grew up in the Bronx. They met each other up there. My mom actually worked for IBM, but up there, since you were talking about the IBM in Boca Raton area. But through various jobs, my father worked for a company called North Electric that was bought out by ITT, became IT North Electric, and it moved us from Ohio to Tennessee to Florida because they had an office in Cape Canaveral. So that was the location, and that's what brought us to Cocoa Beach. And I never found a reason to leave. I've always liked it here in Brevard County. I love the coast. I love the lifestyle. I love being able to walk across the street and be on the beach. And even with the job with Publix, I met my wife here. We kind of went to high school together, even though we didn't know each other. We knew each other. We just never really dated. Got reunited a couple years later. Moved to Atlanta for Publix. Decided Atlanta wasn't right for us, so we moved back here. I had an opportunity with an uncle who worked for AMP, so we moved to New York. I quit Publix. We moved to New York for about a year and a half, and then we came back here because we just love living in Cocoa Beach.
Yep.
And a cool thing about Cocoa Beach and the lifestyle here, everybody comes back. So the people that I knew in high school, they've gotten married, went to college, and they moved elsewhere. But every Thanksgiving, it's like a class reunion because everybody comes back in town to visit their parents, their friends, and their family back here in Cocoa Beach. There's a great art show that happens in Cocoa Beach every Thanksgiving. So major holidays like that, like Thanksgiving, Christmas, throughout the summer, it's like a reunion with the buddies I went to school with every single year. It's kind of cool. And that's why we're staying.
I will tell you that I lived in Norfolk, Virginia for a couple of years, and I couldn't wait to get back. It's funny, when I was here, I needed to get out. I needed to get away from Miami. I was just like, I'm so done with this place. I'm done. I want to get out. I can't wait to get out. And, you know, living in Chicago, going through boot camp there, and then going to Norfolk, Virginia for a couple of years, I was like, I need to get back here. I need to get back home. I don't like anywhere that is not Florida. I love to visit. To live, I'm out. I'm staying right here.
Awesome. And we got a comment here from the Florida man. He moved here from San Francisco 5.5 years ago and is living in Deltona.
Smart man. Smart man, Florida man.
Especially with things that have happened and transpired over on the west coast of our country the last couple of years. Yeah. I bet you are happy to be here in Florida.
I'm sure they are.
San Francisco is cool though. I went down the Florida man. I remember going down the crookedest street, and I thought that was just the neatest thing. And we walked across the Golden Gate Bridge.
Awesome. I haven't done that yet, but I think something like that's coming in my near future. Aimee, like our paths didn't coordinate this weekend because I had family in town. Part of my family is my niece just got her first job out of college, and she's going to be working at Stanford. So she's in the process of finding her and 3 roommates a place to live outside of Palo Alto because they're going to be working on the campus there. So she's certainly excited about that next chapter, and I can see us actually heading out to San Francisco to go visit her and explore from like her point of view, because she's, you know, a young woman, just having that young energy and exploring the city. I think is going to be great once she gets settled in. I'm really looking forward to going out and seeing her.
Super cool.
Very cool.
Lombard Street. That's right.
Lombard Street. That's the one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Love San Fran.
Yeah, he was ahead of the game. Yes, you were.
Yes, definitely.
That's funny.
Cool.
Well, you know, I noticed one of the things that we were also talking about is there's a very active equestrian community in Florida that people don't really realize. Down this way, we have Wellington, and even out in West Delray Beach, but huge equestrian down this way. Yeah.
I always tell people, look, you know, when I have people moving down here, my first question to them is, what kind of a lifestyle do you want to live? And it's kind of a funny question, right? Because most people look at me and they just kind of think, well, what do you mean? I said, well, what kind of a lifestyle? Do you want the equestrian? Do you want the golfing lifestyle? Do you want the boating lifestyle? Do you love just living out in the woods? You know, what kind of a lifestyle do you want? And they kind of just go, well, we're coming down to Florida to go to the beach. And I said, you can have this lifestyle within 30 minutes of each other, and sometimes within like 10 minutes of each other, because you have everything right here. It's really fantastic.
Yeah, you do.
You have so much opportunity for, you know, exploring all kinds of different things.
Yep. And I think we're all experts in that, Aimee. I think when you talk to your client, you got to ask them, you know, what are your interests? The why. I always ask the why. I had a client referred to me by a real broker. Yay, real. Awesome. Client was coming from Chicago, and he's like, this is what I want, and this is what I want, and this is what I want. And there you go, Michele. Mm-hmm. And I said to him, why are you moving here? And he's like, I didn't really think about that. So I said, well, tell me the why, and then I'll get you there, right? I'll do my best to get you everything on your hit list and everything that you want on your want list. And if not, I'll figure out a way to if you can't store something, maybe you go get a storage. But that's the most important question, is ask them why, because it's what Aimee just said. Mm-hmm. They think it's just sun and fun, and that's it. And when I was in Greece, I had a guy tell me, oh, all you guys do is, drink and party every day. And I looked at him, I'm like, excuse me?
Not all of us.
It was closed when I was in Europe for 10 days.
Well, I think that's the challenge, is that when we do have family and friends come, we're working, and they think we're not working. And so you really have to carve out that time too, so you can spend vacation time. Like whereas as agents, we do have to kind of plan when we're going to take our time off so that we can spend time with our friends and family. But we're so diverse in what you can do here and where you can live, and the opportunities. Like, and I know we've talked about this before, but we have a burgeoning tech industry really starting to bubble up all across the state, and very concentrated in Miami and up by in West Palm and the Palm Beaches and where Eric is. So that's fairly new,
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's basically here right now. It's a lot of tech, a lot of crypto. The Citadel is moving something here. There's a big building called the Citadel, and people are just moving in. But like you said, there's so many different areas that you can live in. And they say, oh, because, Florida's so dense. No, Florida's not dense. There are certain parts of Florida that are dense, but
Yep.
not all of Florida. I mean, like Eric just said, how many cows, Eric, did you see between one coast and the other?
It's crazy driving through the middle of the state, just how undeveloped it is because it's just open farmland.
That's right. There's nothing there. I mean, I drove my son to Lake City, I guess it is, where Florida Southern University is.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at Marianne and I go, there's nothing here.
Mm-hmm.
It's just cows and cows and cows and then oranges. And it's like, that's it.
Yep.
That's all we saw throughout the state. It's crazy.
Well, and for that matter, we have rodeos here. And if I'm not mistaken, rodeos actually started here in Florida.
I know St. Cloud's a big rodeo area. Like they have a big rodeo every single year. And if you drive through St. Cloud, they've got like the entrance to the city where you come in, it's got a cowboy on a Bronco. Like
Yep. And I know Ocala. Go ahead, Aimee.
No, go.
Ocala's big when it comes to horses and things like that. And equestrian.
Huge equestrian up there, most definitely.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a lot of money up in Ocala.
A lot of money. Michele will tell you the same thing. Her area's got the Polo Club and some really beautiful exclusive places. And we have an equestrian, an arena, literally a mile from my house. It's called the Ronald Reagan Arena.
Yeah,
cool.
It's right here, right down the street.
Have y'all been to Ocala?
Yes.
I went to school in Gainesville.
Oh, there you go. So you know about it. The Ocala Forest is a beautiful place to go walk through and explore. I'm a fan of kayaking, and there's the St. Johns River kind of goes up through there, and there's so many natural springs. Like you got that cold spring water
I want to do that.
5 degrees outside. It's awesome to go through and just.
I want to do this spring.
If you don't have the equipment, you could rent a canoe or some type of float to go down the springs. But you definitely need to treat yourself and enjoy that cold water because it's cold, it's refreshing, it's crystal clear. There are we were canoeing on the Swanee River, and there were caves. Like we went over a hole and I looked down and we were like 150 feet up from the bottom, and it was like looking over the edge of a building. It seemed so far down, and it grabbed the side of the canoe because it seemed like we were so high up when the hole was below us like that. It was amazing.
What time of year was that?
That was summertime when we had done that a couple years ago. We did like a camping trip up that way, and we haven't in the last couple years, but we've loaded up the kayaks and have gone over to King's Landing and other launches in the north of Orlando, south, or actually in the Ocala Forest area, and we've gone kayaking through there, and it was kind of neat. We didn't see the monkeys, but we heard the monkeys howling in the trees. But I've seen pictures of monkeys coming down and taking hats off people. It's kind of neat.
Well, another really cool thing about moving to Florida is that if you like football, we got football. We got football in Jacksonville. We got football in Tampa. And we got the Miami Dolphins. We also have major SEC and I think ACC football with the Miami Hurricanes, FIU, FAU. We've got Florida Atlantic University, we've got University of Florida, we've got Florida State, we've got UCF, you've got University of Tampa, you've got USF. I mean, we are just UCF. We are just we've got it all.
And that's not counting. We got the Orlando Magic and Miami Heat for basketball. There is the Panthers and the Tampa Lightnings. Go Lightnings! How well they've been doing with the hockey season.
Really well.
And baseball. You got the Tampa Rays and the Marlins down south.
You got
so if you like sports, Florida's got you covered.
Hey, so
I'm here for preseason.
Yep.
So they're here for preseason.
Oh yeah, preseason's getting ready to start, and also baseball.
Preseason starts tonight,
training, right?
Yeah, preseason football starts tonight. The Hall of Fame game is already. Awesome. I think it's on TV.
I think I saw that.
Yeah. So Charles has a question, right? Charles Brown is asking, where is the best place to swim with dolphins and manatees? And I can tell you right now, I have personally fed a manatee, given a manatee water, swam with manatees. Key Largo is very good for that. Any one of the inlets, you can go on an inlet and you'll see them.
Can you get in trouble for that?
It's a
Are
kind
you
of
not allowed to touch manatees?
They are a protected class, so
I
you're not
didn't-
supposed to do it out in the wild.
I
Just
didn't
saying.
touch the animal. I swam.
Okay.
That's good. That you're not allowed to touch the animal,
Good
and
recovery.
Hey. But they do come up on you
you
if
can
you're
watch
swimming.
them from afar.
Right. But
At
he
the
did.
nuclear
We were
plant.
right. We were next to my sister's boat. The thing.
You meant to say that you were swimming with the dolphins and just feeding the manatees.
So there's
That's still not
places-
good.
Or the
Feed
water.
man.
Yeah.
It's still not.
I just dropped
Oh,
some
God.
iceberg lettuce in the water and they happen to
Yeah.
eat it.
Well,
Yeah.
that's what we
That's
did,
what
Eric.
it's
Thank
with
you.
the dolphins.
I meant to
think
say you
that
were feeding it water because you were watering your boat.
We're
Yeah,
just moving on to the
Yeah.
dolphins now.
On to the next thing. I know that if you go
Dolphins.
to SeaWorld, there's opportunities near SeaWorld where you can swim with the dolphins.
And down in the Keys and Key
and down in
Largo.
the Keys too.
Keys.
So
There's two places down there. One of them is called
Dolphins Plus.
Dolphins
and-
Plus, and there's another place that's like
And then
Yeah.
there's also the Dolphin Research Center where you can observe rescued dolphins. By the way, just to get this out of the way, if someone says to you, "Oh my gosh, we are having fresh dolphin tonight for dinner,"
Yes.
it's not a porpoise.
it's not flipper.
It's not flipper. It's mahi mahi, but they also go by dolphin, and they're beautiful. Like when you see them in the wild and they get caught.
They got
they're
that big
gorgeous.
head on them, and they got
And
like
they're
the
yellowish
colors on them are
green,
amazing.
but have no fear. We're not eating flipper.
No.
We have some very interesting seasonal food things too. Like we have stone crab season from October to May.
Mm-hmm.
There's also different times of the year.
It's
Mini
lobster
season.
season right now.
Yeah,
Right?
lobster season. They just had mini season open up in the Florida Keys, but
Awesome.
there's rules. There's like Florida Fish and Wildlife. You go on there and you will see like how big a lobster is in order for you to keep that lobster or it goes back. So every year we see people getting arrested because they're taking either too many because there's only so much for a limit, or they're too small. And that also goes for fish. You could be catching certain species of fish. My husband's a
Tarpon.
saltwater fisherman,
Tarpon and snook.
and
Yeah.
you have to throw them back, or they're out of season. There's just you got to get permits.
Yep. And then for fishing, you don't need a fishing license if you're fishing from the shore, but if you're in a boat and on like some of the
You gotta get
intercoastal
one.
waterways, you need to have a license to go fishing.
They're
I'm
not
not sure what it
expensive.
is if you're out in the ocean.
You
What the
do.
licensing you do need to if you're deep sea
Yeah,
fishing too.
I always typically have one, and if not, this is always how my house rolls. Oh, we're gonna go fishing. Oh, we need our fishing licenses. Mom, can you go ahead and order and because you can do it right online.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Mom.
Okay, $75 later.
Yeah. Michelle, question: If Andy, right, Captain Andy, your husband, if he
Yeah.
has a license, does everybody on the boat need a license?
No, I don't think so. I think it's because it's under the charter, but
Right.
he can only have 6 people on the boat fishing. It's called a 6-pack.
Oh,
There you go.
cool.
My husband was on the circuit for the sport fishing. So
That's
for
right.
the longest time, that was his career. He traveled. Eric, going back to your question about does he travel outside? Yes. Traveled all over on that circuit for the sport fishing,
Cool.
which is like a tiny circuit, but it's a big one, but it's a real
Very
It's
competitive.
close knit.
super competitive.
What
Yes.
kind of fishing? Inland, offshore, inshore, saltwater, freshwater, offshore. Oh, wow.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Marlin,
Oh.
the big marlin tournaments.
Sailfish.
Big money. There's huge money in that.
The money is tremendous.
Huge money in that.
And the tournaments tend to be coming up too when it gets cooler out.
Right.
So there's going to be some good tournaments. And as a matter of fact, we have discussed this because we do have a sport fish boat, 42-foot post. And, we've talked, Hector and I in particular talked about this. And Aimee, you were there too when we were talking about is entering a tournament.
Yes.
Us real agents entering a
Good,
tournament.
yes.
on Tennessee,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which I think
Jimmy
would be
Johnson.
a riot.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Jimmy Johnson from the U. He does a big tournament down here, and it's grown. He started it, I think, in the '90s. It's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know how many boats, but I think they're probably full already for this year.
Yeah, well, the Coves in Deerfield Beach does one. And then there's the Pompano Beach Fishing Rodeo. And then there's the Ladies Fish Off. So there's like some really like big ones. And speaking of fish, we have some major boat shows. So if you're moving to Florida and you're thinking about getting a boat, we have the Miami Boat Show. Hector, is that in January or February? I think February.
One is in February, but then there's also one in November. Like they're not supposed to.
Lauderdale is, I think, in October.
October's for Lauderdale.
And then
I've always wanted to go down and see it because I've seen pictures and highlights of
cool.
It looks pretty amazing.
You gotta come down, Eric.
And if you're into more of the RVing thing, I know Tampa on the West Coast in February has a huge RV show. So if you're thinking about getting into the RV life, that's where you can go and you can check out all the different bells and whistles that come with the RVs as well.
Awesome.
Well, I think we covered a lot of things about Florida. I think we learned a lot about each other too. Thank you for those questions. That question, Charles, that was awesome. And for everybody that tuned in. And we'll be back live. This is a Thursday night, 7 p.m. You can either catch it live here on YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn, or you can catch it on the replay as well. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Aimee, Hector, Michele, I appreciate all of your participation in this and making this a successful show. And until next week, thank you everybody for tuning in.